Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Highbrow Talk. So, there are, every word has baggage. Sometimes that word weighs us down so we can't go the extra mile because we don't understand it, right? We don't get it, we don't comprehend it, whatever. Some of that baggage has been filled with puffed up air from the world, and we tote it around, ha 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 ha. But it's just filled with air. It's empty. It's got nothing in it, right? And when we come across words that might bear some heavy baggage, like, for instance, casting out, that's got a lot of baggage on it. Salvation, that's got a lot of baggage on it. Sacrifice, that's got a lot of baggage on it. Now, I'm not saying all baggage is bad. What I'm saying is that we as a people have created baggage for these words. And when we hear these words, this baggage, right? This bag opens up and all of those thoughts flood into our mind. Slave. That's a huge one. I've spoken on previous videos about the word slave. And that baggage immediately is a negative thing. But if I switch that word for what it should be, right? A servant or an indentured servant, well, now that baggage changes. It's not such a heavy word that's being tossed around. But there's certain words that when spoken out of the mouth of any believer in the Messiah, and I'm talking about Protestants, Calvinists, Baptists, Seventh-day Adventists, Protestants, Pentecostals, Messianic Judaism, Torah observant, Messianic, Christian-based religions. I'm talking about if you believe that Yeshua is the Messiah and he came and fulfilled the prophecies needed to be fulfilled by the Messiah in order to know he's the Messiah, that's who I'm speaking to. This is the people group I'm speaking to. There's a word that is a cord and it runs across the ground. And sometimes it's big and sometimes it's small. And it's a cord, it's a word that everybody stumbles, everybody trips on. And everybody gets hung up in that spot. And they get worried about that spot. And they get worried about that word. And then they wonder, oh no, oh no, oh no. And that word's conviction. There are so many people I speak to who have a genuine concern, a genuine love, a genuine acceptance, a genuine knowledge, a genuine understanding of the Messiah. But then they come across this word, this tripping hazard, conviction. And they look to one another and go, that's really great. I'm just not convicted of that. You're stumbling and you're falling hard on your face because you're applying things that don't need be. Right? Oh, what are you saying? You're not making any sense. Get to your point. If I come to you and say, hey, you know how one of the commandments is you shall not murder, right? Because there's a distinction between killing and murder, okay? And the Father commands us, you shall not murder, right? And we go, well, so I was thinking about that. I'm actually not convicted that I can't murder people. Any reasonable individual in the Messianic faith is going to look at you and go, what just came out of your mouth? So you think it's okay to murder people? I mean, I don't know if it's okay or not. I'm just not convicted to not murder people. We're all going to look at that individual and say, one, you're like, we need to pray heavily over you right now because this is not good. But two, you're going to look at them and say, what what is you not having to be convicted about not murdering people? Where do you see that you're allowed to murder people? Where do you see it's okay? Or where do you see acceptance? Or where do you see some type of backing to this mindset, to this belief, this ideology, right? But for some reason in our minds, we have this justification, this reasoning in our brains, right? The adversary is allowing us to believe that these things are okay. Or maybe not okay, but just not as bad as they seem. I want to make this very clear. All sin, regardless of, all sin is evil in the eyes of the Father. All sin is evil in the eyes of the Father. Regardless of what sin, it's all evil. So, regardless of how you justify this sin, it's evil. Okay? That's what we're talking about. This conviction. I don't have the conviction to do these things. Okay, well, if I look at you and go, well, the Sabbath, I'm just really not convicted to keep it. Does that give you a free ticket to ignore it? Right? But we can look at those people and say, well, that's acceptable. I understand. You're just not there in your walk yet. But if somebody said they weren't convicted to murder people, you'd immediately stop them and it would be immediate red flags. And you'd say, whoa, 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 hold on a second. Let me ask you this, okay? If you have children and they're saying this to you, or you once were a child, if you said this to your parents, how would this conversation go? Hey, little Billy, I need you to go clean your room after dinner. And once you're in clean your room, I need you to get in the shower. I need you to get in pajamas. I need you to brush your teeth. What if they looked at you and said, oh man, Mom, Dad, like I'll brush my teeth and get in the shower and stuff, but like I'm just not convicted to clean my room. Are you going to look at them and go, all right, little Billy, well, whenever you feel convicted to clean your room, if you could please do that. Even though, as your father, I've commanded you to clean your room. I've instructed you to clean your room. I even taught you how to clean your room. I even taught you the fastest way to clean your room. I've even assisted in cleaning up your room so that your burden of cleaning your room is not as heavy as it once was before I stepped foot into your room and did some of your job for you. And little Billy says, Dad, I hear you. I hear you. You went above and beyond what you needed to do in order that my room be clean. I'm just not convicted of it. Would you accept that? Would your parents accept that? Moses was charged with speaking the law, the Torah, into the ear of the people plainly. He commanded Joshua, when you cross over the Jordan, write all the words of this Torah on stone, plainly. I'm coming to you and speaking to you plainly, in terms in which you understand, in parables or in stories in which you can relate to. We've all had a child, or we've all been a child, and we've all been put in that predicament of cleaning our room or telling our children to clean their room. So when the father says, hey, don't eat unclean foods. When the father says, hey, keep my Shabbat, keep my Sabbath. When the father says, do not murder, why do we have this justification, this reasoning in our minds, other than the adversary giving you that, to go, he doesn't really... So why would we look at murder and go, wow, 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 wow? And then we go a couple commands back in the fourth commandment, and what does the Father say? He says, I'm going to break this down. He says, remember The only command that starts with remember. Remember my Sabbath. Keep it holy. You shall do no servile work. You, your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your oxen, your stranger within your gates. So I'm going to break that down. Remember, meaning we will forget as a people. Don't forget, right? He tells us to guard, to keep holy, aka set apart. Well, hold on. If I'm guarding it, that means someone's coming after it. Well, if I'm the guard, then that means that my life is less important than the thing, the idea, the belief I'm guarding. I've talked about this before. So the Father's saying, hey, do not forget, because you will. So remember to guard and set apart my days. That's how we develop a relationship with them. That's how we grow in our understanding. Paul tells us to chase after the author and perfecter of our faith, Yeshua HaMashiach. We are to walk as he walked, speak as he spoke, think as he thought, do as he did. That's what we need to do. The Son has allowed us a way to return back to our Father's house, back to the Father's house, back to the glory and the presence of the Most High. But the Fathers set out rules. The Torah are rules in how his people should act, how they should think, how they should be, speak, how they should be to one another, how they should be to an outsider, a stranger, how you should act to your parents, how you should act to your children, how you should act to your brothers and your sisters. He's given us that example. And Yeshua comes to show us that example and to lead us and to bring us into a deeper understanding of the Torah. Because if you do not look like Yeshua, if you are not in one mind, his mind, the Messiah's mind, and you're not walking that narrow path with him, you do not and will not fit the criteria the Father's looking for his children. Go read Hebrews 12. He says, when I rebuke you, not if, when I rebuke you, do not be dismayed, for you listen to the discipline of your Father on earth. How much greater is our Father in heaven? We are to be a set-apart people, meaning we shouldn't be looking like everybody else in the world. We should be looking like he wants us to look, acting like he wants us to act. But we throw this word conviction and go, I'm just not convicted of that. That's okay. You don't need to be convicted to clean your room. You need to clean your room. You don't need to be convicted to abstain from unclean foods. You need to abstain from unclean foods. Because by doing that, you become more like the Messiah. And then when you're coming across other things in your life, your mind will be there. And that obedience, the Shema, the hear and obey, that will be on your forehead, between your eyes and in your hands. It'll be right there in your actions and your thoughts. It'll be right there in front of you. It will be second nature because you're being used to saying, you know what? I don't really understand, Mom and Dad, why I need to clean my room, but I'll go ahead and clean my room. Because you know what I'm going to give you, little Bailey, when you clean your room? I got some new toys, and we need to make room for them. I got you a new bed sheet, and we need to make sure we can get it in there. I also got you some new clothes, so we need to make sure they can fit in there. I got you some new furniture, and we need room in order to put it in there. I'm upgrading you. But if your room is dirty, I can't bring the new things in. Because that dirtiness will spoil the goodness. It doesn't make sense when we put our dirty clothes back in our clean clothes, because now we've dirtied the clean. So when you're putting in your theology and all of your sin in with your cleanliness, It's no longer clean. So all of your good, clean actions, acceptable and worthy in the eyes of the Father, they're becoming tainted and dirty. And they're no longer clean. And then all those clean actions, all those clean clothes are amounting to nothing because they've become stained and dirty. And now they need to be cleaned. Repentance comes into this picture. You don't need conviction to obey. And in obeying, you gain understanding. Wow, I understand now why you want me to do this stuff. I understand now why you're saying to keep from these things. I understand now. I am gaining wisdom and knowledge and understanding in these subjects that I thought were too hard to understand. But if you never line up for the race, you'll never, ever, ever, ever win. You can never win if you never show up. How do I get there? Well, follow the signs. I'm just not convicted to go left here. I know signs saying go left. I'm just not convicted to go left. It's really pretty here. But the Father's saying go left and keep going. I'm just not convicted to go. So then you don't go. Guess what? You never make it to the starting line. Guess what you can't do? Run the race. Remember Paul says? Paul talks about running a race. Paul talks about the ability to lose that race as well. And you know what's at that finish line? The finish line is you standing in front of the Messiah, being accepted with open arms. It's you hearing the words, "You have done good and well, my trustworthy servant." Holy moly, people. It's not rocket science. We are children, and we do not understand the reward that's laid out in front of us. You can sit there and say, I know what I get. You have no idea. Your brain cannot comprehend the reward. It just can't. You can't fathom. You cannot imagine the reward he has prepared for us. And you won't until it's in front of you. Until you receive it, you'll have no idea. You don't even understand a speckle of that reward. Because there's so much evil and darkness and sin in the world, and we're so twisted in our minds that we just cannot comprehend those things. You don't need conviction. Is conviction great, and does it exist? Absolutely. Do you need it to obey? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So ask yourself, do you need conviction to do right? Or is just knowing it's right enough? Is that enough of a reason for you to do right? I know this was long. I hope you've stayed till the end. I love you, brothers and sisters. Shalom.